Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. As I'm working toward the end of this, I have found that I had 3 polearms missing. I believe it was Steelgoad, Soul Harvest, and Dim Oak's Hue. So we're going to run through those. This one is, of course, Steelgoad. Steelgoad is a Voulge. It is a relatively low-level Voulge. It's only level 14, and has relatively low requirements, only 50 strength at level 14, which is not bad. There are some characters who may struggle to hit that mark, but level 14 is basically Act 2 normal difficulty. It's like the very beginning of Act 2 normal difficulty. Like, you literally have just killed Andariel. You are literally going into the sewers. Like, that is literally exactly where this item is postured. And it's an interesting item, but it lacks some, like, things. And it has some things that you would rather it not have. And as we go over it, I'm sure you'll figure that out. So we have 10 to 35 two-handed damage, which is not bad for level 14. 50 strength requirement, which again is not bad for level 14. Normal attack speed, and I do believe this is actually very fast on the druid. If we were to put this on the druid, what you will see is that the weapon actually does have a much faster attack speed on druids than it does on your like barbarian and things like that. And this is important because you need to know that items tend to have faster attack speeds on specific characters. There is a large number of characters that have specific attack speed bonuses for items. So when we look at it on the druid, you'll notice that now it says that it is a fast attack speed item, and that is because he gets an attack speed bonus while using polearms. All of them are this way. And when it comes to Dim Oak's Hue, though, I'm not really 100% sure you're going to be using this on a druid due to the mechanic of hit causes monster to flee. I'm not exactly sure why they decided to put hit causes monster to flee on this particular item, but it's not really the best choice for a melee weapon, especially something like this. It has 70% enhanced damage, which does vary from 60 to 80%. We also have 30 to attack rating, which is not bad. For a low-level character, attack rating is always useful, and 30 is a pretty decent amount for level 14. We also have 30% deadly strike on this, which is absolutely amazing. For a low-level character, especially ones that don't get access to deadly strike or critical strike early on, like for instance, druids don't have any access to critical strike, paladins don't have any access to critical strike, and so forth and so on. The critical strike, or rather the deadly strike, can be extremely useful because it will double the damage that the person is doing. We also have hit causes monster to flee 75%, which is the big downside of this particular weapon. The monsters are always going to be running away from you. Now, keep in mind, however, that hit causes monster to flee does not work on elites, it does not work on champions, it does not work on bosses. So in the situations where it really matters, where you need your merc to be dishing out a large amount of damage to a specific target, like Duriel or maybe you're fighting some ridiculous elite beetle, this actually will work out really nicely for those monsters. But when you're fighting regular trash mobs, the hit causes monster to flee will be a little annoying. You'll find your mercenary will constantly be making things run away from you. And it can kind of be a double-edged sword. Number one, it's going to slow things down a little bit, and it's going to make generally the process of killing things take longer than normal. However, it's also going to, in general, keep your mercenary alive because your mercenary will constantly be making things run away from him as opposed to them, attacking him and killing him, obviously. We also have all resistances 5, which is not really a huge amount of resistances, but for a level 14 item, a character who's just going into Act 2 normal difficulty, it's actually not bad. We also have the Ethereal version, which can be nice on a mercenary. It's 15 to 52 damage, 40 strength requirement at level 14, and it could be a little bit higher damage than this, of course, because it is only 70% ED instead of 80. Now, we can upgrade the Steelgoad Voulge to its elite and exceptional forms. And to do that, we're going to have to use a Ral, a Soul, and a Perfect Emerald. And that is going to bring us from the Steelgoad Voulge, 10 to 35, 50 strength, level 14, to the Steelgoad Bill, 23 to 90, 95 strength, level 30. Not exactly the best upgrade there to level 30. I mean, it's decent. 95 strength is a little high for some characters, but for most characters who are actually building melee, that should be just fine. Most level 30 melee characters should have 100 in strength by the time they reach level 30, because there's a lot of good pieces of equipment that you can put on around level 30 that require 100 strength, like Silks of the Victor, for instance. Ancient armors in general, and a lot of the higher armor class items tend to be higher strength. Not really 100% sure I'd ever want to do that specifically. I mean, the damage is okay, and in combination with the Deadly Strike, it actually could smack pretty hard, but there may be better choices. We also have the Ethereal version, which may be a little bit better for a mercenary. Is 15 to 52, 40 strength, level 14, to 35 to 134, 85 strength, level 30. That's a little bit better in terms of damage. Like, it's not terrible. And the Deadly Strike, of course, is going to double that every single time it procs. So if in combination with a good armor that has, say, lifesteal on it, like Bone Flesh, you can have a pretty tanky mercenary early on. As you can also see here, it's very green. Steelgoad Voulge has this just extremely greenness to it there. Not exactly sure why that is. I mean, it doesn't really look that green on the thumbnail. It does have a little bit of green on it, but it's not that green. Now, I don't think this is going to upgrade well to the Elite version. And the reason why is because the Elite version has a very high strength requirement. Also, it doesn't have a lot of enhanced damage on it, so it's probably going to upgrade very poorly to the 3rd tier. But we're going to go ahead and do it anyway because, that's what we do here. We upgrade items well past their limit. So the Steelgoad Bill is going to upgrade to the Colossus Voltage, which is 23 to 90, 95 strength, level 30, to 28 to 280, 55 dex, 210 strength, massive strength requirement on the Colossus Voltage, level 60. The 200 damage on that is just nowhere near acceptable for a level 60 item, and that strength requirement is insane. The Ethereal version can also be upgraded from 35 to 134, 85 strength, level 30, to 42 to 419 damage, 45 dex, 200 strength, level 60. As you can see, the Ethereal version did cut a nice little 10 strength off of it, but the problem is that you'll never be able to put this on a mercenary at level 60. Never. You need a huge amount of plus strength equipment to get this on the mercenary at level 60, and it would be so much strength equipment that it would just completely negate the use of the item. Unfortunately, Colossus Volges tend to be very poor mercenary choices. The only reason why people use Colossus Volges in general for mercenaries is because they have a maximum number of sockets of 4 and can be Larzik to 4. So in a very strict competitive realm, when you're trying to get your hands on that 4-socket Ethereal polearm, an Ethereal Colossus Volge can be the easiest to get your hands on, because what you do is you just simply go find an Eth Colossus Volge, take it to Larzik, have him socket it, and since the max is 4, you end up with 4 sockets, and you can, of course, make your inside polearm in it. But it's still extremely difficult to get that Colossus Volge to actually go onto your mercenary. You need something like Andariel's Visage or another such item that has bonus to strength. And even then, it has to be the Ethereal version, because 210 is almost unachievable. 200 is a little bit closer to achievable. So it has to be the Eth version. It has to be, there's a whole lot of variables that go into putting a Eth Colossus Volge on a merc, and it's just not really worth it, in my opinion. As for Steelgoad as a Colossus Volge, also really not worth it, in my opinion. I could see maybe upgrading the Steelgoad to the Tier 2 version if it's Ethereal for a mercenary, because combined with the Ethereal damage and the Deadly Strike on this, it actually could smack pretty hard. The hit causes monster to flee probably won't be too annoying, since it only works on the trash mobs. And so whenever you're fighting bosses or champions or whatever, he'll be in there just, smacking away, and it won't really, the hit causes monster flee won't really cause you too many issues. I've actually used this on a couple mercenaries, believe it or not, and didn't really have too much trouble with them using it, although I did grow out of it relatively quickly. Let's take a look on Silas Pen real quick, and let's see where you could potentially find this item. It is a level 14 item. That is not the correct window. Why is it on the wrong window? Silas Pen, please. That is not Silas Pen. There we go. Alright, so we just looked up Soul Harvest earlier. Now we're going to be looking up Steelgoad. The Goad of Steel. Again, we're going to lock this to normal difficulty because there's no reason to find this item outside normal difficulty unless you're, just trying to twink out a character or something. Since it's such a low-level item, we're going to assume 50% magic find. And since this is an Act 2 item, we need Act 2 monsters or Act 1 monsters that drop this item. So Ethereal is the closest thing we've got here at 1 in 847, which is not really going to help us out very much because we need this at the beginning of Act 2, not at the end of Act 2. That doesn't really help us as much. The Summoner can drop it. That's actually a pretty good choice at 1 in 1,309. Fang Skin and Claw Viper Temple level 2, 1 in 1,329. Fire Eye, same thing, 1 in 1,329. Dark Elder, Beetle Burst, Ancient Ka the Soulless, Radamant. Looks like we've got a lot of good choices for trying to find this in Act 2, which is pretty surprising. Any other good choices for Act 2? I'm seeing a lot of Act 4 and Act 3. In general, it does look like you could probably obtain this relatively easily in Act 2 difficulty. I mean, we literally have Radamant, Ancient Ka, Beetle Burst, Dark Elder, Fire Eye, Fang Skin, and the Summoner. Some of these are extremely easy to farm, like Fire Eye. It's right next to the portal in Arcane Sanctuary. If you don't have access to Arcane Sanctuary, Beetle Burst and Dark Elder are in Far Oasis and Lost City, and they're also extremely easy to farm. Talrash's Tomb, Ancient Ka the Soulless. He's not easy to farm, but if you are farming the tombs for EXP, he's actually a pretty easy target because you will eventually find him as you're farming the tombs. And the Summoner may not be the best choice, but you will kill him a couple times. And Fang Skin also is relatively easy to get to. I mean, in general, we're looking at a lot of really good choices to farm this. I don't even think we need to go any further. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're talking about relatively low-level items that may not necessarily be your main focus. As always, keep watching.